Mr. Devin Pandy is here, and Mr. Andrew Clyde is not participating. This is for an open seat for the United States House of Representatives District 9. And we're honored to have Mr. Pandy with us, as I said, and he will start with his opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir. You're perfect.
All right, great. Yes, my name is Devin Pandy. I am the 2020 Democratic nominee for United States House of Representatives to represent Georgia's mighty 9th Congressional District. I am a father, a soon-to-be husband, and a patriot who loves his country. I came to the United States as an infant with my family in search of a better life. My mother had legal work status, but my father, brother, and I were undocumented. In the 9th Congressional District, that's not an uncommon story. But my parents loved this country and wanted to make a home here and prove how much they admired and loved the United States. Through my father's service in the United States Army, he gained his naturalized citizenship in 1981. I was 7 years old when I was blessed with my citizenship as well. And actually tomorrow will make 39 years that I have been a United States citizen. And I am so proud of that. I am so blessed with that. Like my father, my siblings and I also joined the military. I joined at age 19 and served 21 years, including 5 deployments to Panama, Kuwait, Iraq twice, and Afghanistan. In the Army, I specialized in intelligence and electronic warfare systems integration, logistics, and after 9/11, became a military intelligence all-source analyst. I liaised with foreign militaries and governments to ensure the safety of supply convoys across international borders, which I think is what they call the supply chain management here at home, just without all of the live mortar rounds. I retired honorably in Georgia as a chief warrant officer and a wounded warrior. Now, it wasn't easy to go from private to chief warrant officer in the Army, but I earned my way up through hard work and sheer determination. My military career trained me to continuously think of the second and third orders of effect of any decision before making it. And that's exactly how I will approach any decision I make as your representative. I'm running for office to be the standard bearer for honor and integrity in the United States Congress, which are characteristics I think we all recognize are very much needed right now in our nation's capital. And to be a voice for the people of Northeast Georgia. I will focus on the issues that matter most, like affordable, quality, life-saving healthcare, creating a stronger economy and more good-paying jobs, providing better and safer education for our children, strengthening our rural and agricultural infrastructure, protecting our natural resources, and combating the effects of climate change in a responsible, sustainable way. And above all else, protecting American lives and keeping our communities and country safe. Thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to speak to and with everyone on this call. Being a business owner is no easy task. In some ways, it probably feels like a war in and of itself. I hope, as your next congressman, I can count on the mentorship and support of the Jackson County Chamber of Commerce and all of the job creators in our great state to help inform my decisions in Congress.
Thank you, Mr. Pandy. We'll get on to the questions now for you. Question number 1, the ongoing pandemic continues to affect everything we do and affects some critical businesses in particular, airlines, tourism-related businesses, and restaurants. Tell us where you think the U.S. House should focus its energies in addressing the pandemic.
Yes, well, the first thing we should do to address the pandemic is to stifle the pandemic. Taking the, not the gut feelings of one person, no matter how powerful they may be, but actually listening to our scientists and following their guidelines, not guidelines that were changed or guided by one person's gut feeling, but actually by the science by the scientists who have been trained and educated and experienced in these matters. We could bring back our pandemic response team that was dismantled before this pandemic. That would help. We can also give the American people the actual honest truth about this pandemic and what can stem the continued growth of this pandemic. So those are just some of the things. I only have 2.5 minutes. Those are some of the things that we can do right now to actually try to not even try to actually pull back and flatten the curve of the over 7 million people who are infected and 200,000 people who have died.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pandy. Question number 2 for you. How does your view of leadership for the 9th District differ from what we've had under the previous leadership?
Well, that's a very good question. First of all, we know that that I have pledged not to accept any corporate PAC money. And you can look at my FEC reports and you will see that I have not. I refuse to accept contributions from any entity which will expect me to vote in a manner that may not be in the best interest of the 9th District. I refuse. So that is one huge difference. You know that when I am in DC or I am back here in the district working, I am working for you, not for anyone else. I am not going to simply parrot whatever the president, whomever the president may be at that time. I will not simply parrot what that president says. I consider myself to be a bipartisan Democrat. And what that means is that if a Democrat proposes legislation that is not good for this district, for this state, or this country, I will not support it. And if a Republican proposes legislation that is good for this district, for this country, for this state, I will support it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pandy. We'll go on to question number 3. Beginning in March, when most schooling throughout the state began on a remote basis, the need for reliable access to broadband in rural areas became clear. In the 30s, the federal government passed the Rural Electrification Act to address the lack of reliable access to electricity in many of the same areas. Do you believe this should be a priority for our federal government? Why or why not? If so, what actions might be taken by you and your fellow congressmen?
Absolutely. I believe that any option that we have to increase the good of the people is what we should do. Instead of only talking about rural broadband, I will introduce legislation to make it happen through a Rural Broadband Act. We deserve high-speed internet. Chattanooga made it a public utility. And if they can do it in Tennessee, then the home of the dogs can do it too.
Thank you very much. And we'll finish with question number 4 before your closing statements, Mr. Pandy. Number 4 is, as you may or may not be aware, Jackson County has recently suffered a hospital closure. What do you believe the remedy is for improving rural access to healthcare in your district?
Well, one of the first things that we can do is pass the Save Rural Hospitals Act. The hospital that just closed is a tragedy, really, and that is the ninth rural hospital to close in the last 10 years here in Georgia. What that does is it creates a new designation inside Medicaid and Medicare for rural hospitals. It gives them debt relief, and it opens up federal funds to keep places open. It is imperative that we look at all of the good that the Save Rural Hospitals Act can do. And we're talking about healthcare and providing affordable, quality, life-saving healthcare. That is my goal. What is the point of doing that if our citizens don't have a facility to receive that care? It's hard enough with the few rural hospitals that we had. Let's not only save the few that we have left, but let's see if we can reopen or open new rural hospitals here. I received a letter from a woman in Blairsville, and she was the only internist in her community for 40 years until her daughter joined the family business 5 years ago. The Medicare rates are going down, and she could use telehealth, but the internet is so spotty that people can't use video calling for that telehealth. And the audio calling it actually pays less than the telehealth. So there are things that we can actively do right now to make this better for people. We just have to be able to, like some of our previous candidates have said, we need to come together, work together, put our personal feelings aside, put party aside, put power aside. It always should be people over power. It should be people over party. And that is why I'm running to be the next U.S. House representative for the 9th District.